Time to talk about an old classic episode of Star Trek. Yes, this will be The Man Trap. Hey, if you're in one of those, call a lawyer. Yeah, well, this Man Trap was the first episode of Star Trek to air. Now, I don't know the chronological order of when it was taped, if it was taped exactly after the second pilot was done and they got the series order. But it's interesting to look at it because there's still a few little remnants here and there of the look and style of the two pilots. So you'll see people, there's a couple of scenes, you blink, you miss it, but there's a couple of like crewmen wearing the old shirts. Now, of course, the old phaser shows up in the case of the professor on this episode. And when he has to, he's trying to fight off Kirk and Spock, and he loses, but his phaser is in the old style, which kind of fits with the chronology. Not that anyone was thinking of it, I don't know, but it's like, oh, he's been out on this planet in the story for 5 years, so it stands to reason that some of his stuff, his equipment and technology, might be a little older than what the Enterprise has when it has newer stuff. So there's interesting things like that. There's also, of course, several crewmen die. Not one of them was wearing a red shirt. No, there's a blue shirt, a yellow shirt, and all that. So there you go. But here we finally get the crew that we know and love from the greatness that was Star Trek. And so Dr. McCoy makes 3. He finally shows up, and this first story centers around him for the most part, in that it involves he is going to this planet where an old girlfriend is stationed there with her husband. Which, boy, that makes it awkward, doesn't it? But Bones still nervous, and he's still, it brings up all the old feelings and whatnot. We all have that first love or girlfriend from college or what have you, and so that's the situation for Bones. Unfortunately, she's dead. Spoiler. This involves the famous salt monster, which really, boy, the makeup job on the creature when you finally see it. It's pretty good. It's pretty effective there with the kind of weird antiquing look to it, with this moss type drapery of hair over the creature, and it's a really hideous face. Now, maybe not so much the sucker cups or suction cups on the fingers and whatnot, but good enough. And you understood it because the creature survives on salt, and when it can't just get it any other way, it'll suck it right out of living organisms. And so it's been sucking the entirety of the sodium content of the crew members of the Enterprise. And it apparently had done this to the professor's wife and Dr. McCoy's old girlfriend. So the creature has the ability to take the appearance of people that you think about in your mind. So my guess is it's not really a shapeshifter, like Mystique is or something like that from X-Men, but rather it can project in your mind what she looks like. So there's an interesting display of this where when Bones first sees her, she looks like she did in their college days. She still looks the same age. She's like a woman in her 20s and all this stuff. And he's like, "You haven't aged today." He's still, infatuated and all that. And then she turns around to greet Captain Kirk. Well, Kirk's expecting to see a woman, in middle age or what, like McCoy. And so, of course, that's what she looks like. And he's like, Bones. He's still got the crush and everything, yeah. And that's all it is. And meanwhile, the crewman standing there, she suddenly looks like a porn star. Because he says he had been to a pleasure planet. And McCoy gets all mad. He says, "Well, you look just like this broad I met on a pleasure planet." And but this is like automatic for this creature in that it lures you in with sex, and and it does so with the crewman later on. He's the first victim that gets his salt sucked out. And So that's that, and so it's like, oh, it's like a strange mystery. How did he die and all that? And they discover, oh, he doesn't have any salt and all that. And it's interesting back and forth there because they've got this terrible case of the crewman and Captain Kirk's like, oh, well, what happened? And Bones is, I can't figure it out, And then he says, boy, meeting Nancy, as he starts going off, it's funny how she looked so young when I first saw her, and I guess I was seeing her through a romantic haze. And Kurt, Bones, I got a dead crewman here. And Bones is all embarrassed. So it's right off the bat, you've got the back and forth, and it's credible, and it just, everybody clicks. And I don't know that it would have worked with another cast. And so it's just immediately these guys knew what they were doing. And even though I don't know how much they would have known each other at that point, but it just fit. You can, it just feels like these men, they've known each other for a time. It's not just a captain and a subordinate officer. These are old friends at this point. So it just works that way. And they were able to make it work and do it. And scenes like that, and it just shows that's the true power of this version of Star Trek, the original, which actually, like I said, there was 2 other pilots, and it took them a while to get here. So anyway, so that it's interesting. So of course it's a bit of a murder mystery going on, but eventually they realize, it's got to be some kind of creature, and of course they realize the creature's an imposter because more crewmen die, and then the creature takes the form of those crewmen, gets on the ship, and is wandering around. Except it kind of is seeking out salt, and it chases Mr. Sulu's meal that Yeoman Rand brought in for Sulu and wanted the salt, but then a flower that looks mysteriously like a hand puppet. Okay, not everything was top notch in effects yet, but for the purpose of the scene, it's all right, And then the flower is a flower, but at the same time, it seemed to have animalistic ability in that it moves, it reacts, and it was terrified of the salt creature, and doesn't calm down until the imposter leaves. And then we get a demonstration that it has also hypnotic powers. So when it's caught your attention by looking like, a potential sexual partner, it can hypnotize you. So this is demonstrated when Uhura encounters the creature, and he takes on the form of a handsome black man, and he starts. And apparently, with the telepathic abilities, it's also was able to speak in Swahili and all that, despite being this alien creature who's only met the humans of the professor and his wife, and so it demonstrates that it almost gets Uhura because it's got her in the trance and everything, and then they get interrupted, and then she wanders off and she heads to the bridge and all that. And so on and on and on with this, and it demonstrates the abilities of the creature, and it does it without having to spell it out for you. It does this, you figure it out because it displays it. A lot of things these days they either don't do that, or they, let me spell out what happened here and all that, now. And of course, as the investigation goes, the crewmen figure out what the creature is capable of and explain it. But still, they do a very good job of theatrically displaying what the creature is capable of. So, of course, it turns back into Nancy to use Dr. McCoy as protection. Dr. McCoy takes a nap, and she takes his form and is sitting among them while they're plotting on what to do and all this sort of thing. And then eventually kills the professor who had been living with all this time, and tries to kill Spock, but of course Spock's Vulcan blood saves him. It doesn't quite work. So Spock can't be killed by the creature, and finally it attempts to kill the captain when the captain was trying to phaser the creature, but Bones wouldn't get out of the way. And then you have the scene where Spock, and at the time you wouldn't have known how strong Spock is, but Vulcans are far more superior in physical strength than humans are, and Spock is just wailing on this woman, and she doesn't even notice it. It knocks Spock across the room, and then he's like, Bones, come on. He's like, no, Nancy. And then it proceeds to try to kill Kirk, and finally McCoy is forced to to shoot the creature. And if it takes the form of the creature, he finally sees her for what she really looks like. And that's also indicative of the professor. They ask him, could he see the creature? Has he learned to see it without being fooled by its imagery? And he says, yes, I can see it. So he knew that McCoy was the creature sitting there at the time. And so now you see when McCoy is forced to see the truth, he can see that it's it's this creature. So that's another little display it, don't tell it. We sort of did, but not outright, And then he shoots the creature, even though it still is forcing the image of Nancy on him. But, and McCoy is, sort of stuck in that terrible position. But in the end, he's actually killing the thing that killed his old girlfriend. So there you go. Feel so bad, Bones. So, and that's it. It was the last of its kind. The professor made the allusion to the buffalo, and of course you get the line at the end where Kirk and Bones are very quiet, and Spock walks in and say, what's going on? And then Kirk says, I was thinking of the buffalo. And so off they go, and it's little poetic endings like that. They didn't always end with a joke and stuff. Sometimes they did at Spock's expense, stuff like that. But here you would have these sort of sad endings of like, well, it had to be done. I wish it could have been some other way, but that kind of thing. And a well-rounded episode, and a great episode to start the series with, and plenty of evidence and scenes there that displays why this show had such a massive impact on the populace. And so there you go, Star Trek Man Trap, an excellent episode. Do yourself a favor and go watch it. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. And for those of you who have subscribed, thank you very much. And while you're here, yes, check out that link description below. That'll take you to my mini stores that have plenty of goodies for you. Yes, that's right, you.